Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. So today is going to be looking at the upcoming NFL games. I do want to add in an additional wrinkle. The wrinkle is that since we're getting a little closer to the playoffs, we're going to start looking at the playoffs a little bit more seriously because we're crossing the halfway point, and the race is, it's kind of like toward the end of the race, the dog race or whatever, the horse race. You start coming around the other bend, people start standing up, and how tight things are start to matter. Who's pulling away starts to matter, all that kind of stuff. So I want to kind of start with that, although we should probably actually start with some of the news and notes from the injury perspective. So first of all, it's not looking good for Matthew Golden. I mean, this is kind of becoming a disaster where, he's being strung along a little slower than I think people would want. Obviously, everyone has decided this is the coach's fault and he just doesn't want Golden to be good or something. I don't know what the theory is. But anyways, it obviously has not gone great to start the season, and now he's looking hurt, which just confirms that we just are not allowed to have nice things. I can't really think of a single critically important player at this point that hasn't missed time. That may be somewhat normal, but good Lord, we lost our quarterback. We've lost Christian and Jaden and Tucker and Reed if I didn't say that, Golden. We've lost Rashawn, we've lost Van Ness, we've lost Wyatt, we've lost Zach Tom. I mean, McKinney's got to hang in there, I guess. Edgerrin, even though he's not having the greatest year this year, nowhere near as good as it was last year. Anyways, Matthew Golden went through stretches like yesterday, but did not have a helmet on or go outside for the start of practice. Looks like he will be DNP again. Savion Williams not going out either. No sign of Nate Hobbs and Lucas Van Ness. This is via Rob Domofsky. So, obviously not the best sign in the world. Van Ness is out. He finally has his breakout season. He was looking dominant, and we freaking lose him. Nate Hobbs probably not playing. Savion probably not playing. Watson, Wicks, Heath, Willis, some other people looked limited out in practice. I don't have the final report. This is just going off of what people are looking at. This is basically the Friday practice on Saturday. That's where I'm recording from Saturday, for those that don't know. Coming to you live from yesterday. So, frickin' what can you do? We also got confirmation McManus is going to be kicking. That's infuriated everybody. I want this, like I said, I want it to end. I just hope we cut the other guy. I just want to cut him. McManus is our kicker. I don't know why he's going through a 2-game rough patch, but we have 9 years of data on McManus. He's the guy. He's our kicker. He's been a very good kicker for us. Cut the other guy and cut the bull crap. I'm just freaking done with it. All right. Here's what I want to do. I want to start with this, and then we'll kind of get into the other games and some betting stuff for those of you that are interested. So over here at The Athletic, they have taken over this playoff simulator thing that used to be over at 538. I don't know if they bought it or just created their own or whatever. I don't know, but it's a beautiful thing. When I think it was 538 when they went down, and I think they lost this. It was very sad because it's one of my favorite NFL tools anywhere ever. Essentially, what it does is when you make a selection, it runs pretty instantly 100,000 simulations as a way to kind of give you the odds that you're going to this, that, or the other. As of right now, the Green Bay Packers, after running 100,000 simulations, and these are not just arbitrary coin flip simulations, it's based on all kinds of data and everything else, historic data, current data, how the team is performing, this, that, or the other. They take all that, they run the simulation 100,000 times. The Packers make the playoffs 87% of the time. They have an 11% chance of being the number 1 seed, 45% chance of hosting a wild card game, 31% of playing a wild card game, hosting versus wild card, and a 13% of missing the playoffs. Now, this game, I was on a different site just kind of plugging around with some stuff. Actually, I want to do that real quick first. This game is obviously critically important. I think everybody knows it. I freaking closed the wrong tab. It's obviously critically important, but you understand, we can, by losing this game, we could very easily be out of the playoffs. Let me show you how easy that happens. Right now, just based on seeding, the number 1 seed is the Eagles. The number 2 is the Buccaneers. Number 3 is the Seahawks. And number 4 is the Packers. We are leading in our division, so we get that number 4 spot. We're the lowest of the top 4, whatever. If we lose this game, without even doing anything else, the Lions and Bears both now have a better record than us. The Lions become the 4 seed. The Bears are the 7 seed, and the Packers are the 8 seed, meaning outside of the playoffs. The Lions are playing Washington. If they win that game, they stay the 4 seed so far and become a 6-3 team. The Bears are playing a relatively easy game against the Giants. If they win, they're at 6-3, tied with the Lions, but still the 7th seed. And so, essentially, there is a very easy path to us being 3rd in the division and out of the playoff race as of today if we lose and the Bears and Lions win, which they're very likely to do. That doesn't mean we can't go to the playoffs, obviously. There's still things that can happen. In fact, if the what is it? The other game that is important is the 49ers-Rams game, because the only way that I've found, if the Bears win, the Lions win, and the Packers lose, for us to be still in the race, is for the Rams to beat the 49ers. If the Rams beat the 49ers, you have number 1 seed is the Eagles, 2 is the Rams, 3 is the Bucks, 4 is the Lions, 5 would be the Bears, 6 would be the Seahawks, and 7 would be the Packers. The Packers would be ahead for whatever reason. I guess because they'd be 6-4, we're 5-3-1. We'd be ahead of the 49ers. Now, this isn't exactly the kind of nitpicking we want to do this early in the season, but it just goes to show you that if we end up losing this game, we go from we go from 1st in our division to 3rd in our division and out of the playoff race, most likely. Now, if we win the game, let's look at it as we win, Lions win, Bears win. Heck, let's let the Vikings beat Baltimore. Probably won't happen, but let's go ahead and do that. We'll keep the Rams, all that stuff. I'm not going to go through every possible simulation. But because the Lions lost, they're no longer the 1 seed. They draw. Actually, what happens if San Francisco? Ooh, all right, so that is a fun one. So, yeah, we do want LA to win. Let's just keep, or no, we would want San Francisco to win. I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll keep LA right now as the winner, which is our benefit if the Eagles win or whatever. It's kind of a high-end, low-end thing. In that instance, the Eagles are no longer the number 1 seed. They drop down to the 4 seed. They're still winning their division. They're going to win their division, probably. But they're at the bottom of the list. So not only are we not 8th in the division or 7th anymore, we're number 3. It becomes Rams 1, Bucks 2, Packers 3, Eagles 4. Now, if the 49ers do win, it's not going to be the Rams anymore. It's going to be the Packers as the number 2 seed. So you got the Buccaneers moving up, and you've got the Packers at 2, the Bears. Let's do it this way. Packers 2, 49ers 3, Eagles 4, Lions 5, Bears 6, Seahawks 7. Now, what happens if the friggin' Patriots win? If the Packers win and the Patriots and 49ers win, the Packers are back to being the number 1 seed. It will be Packers number 1, 49ers 2, which is hilarious because the 49ers also could be outside of playoff contention depending on how this goes. Eagles 3, Buccaneers 4, then Lions 5, Bears 6, Seahawks 7, with the Rams out of the playoffs. So there's a scenario where the Packers are number one. There's a scenario where the Packers are out of the playoffs. There's a scenario where the Rams are number one or the Rams are out of the playoffs. There are some wild scenarios, and we're getting to that point where these games really are starting to mean a lot for a lot of people. So the Packers beating the Eagles means a ton for the Packers, a ton for the Eagles, a ton for the NFC North, a ton for the NFC. And of course, it's big. These games for the Bears and Lions and Vikings are also very big. The Bears are consistently like the 7 seed if they win their game, pretty much no matter what. I'm sure you can find a scenario where that's not the case, but if they lose to the Giants, in this current iteration, they're the 10th seed, well out of the playoffs. If the Lions lose to Washington, in this situation, again with the Bears losing, they're the 9th seed, and they are out of the playoffs. Now, understand when I'm saying out of the playoffs, I'm not talking about like you're done for the season. I'm just talking about if the season ended today kind of a thing. It's where you rank in the NFC. And of course, if the Bears win and the Lions and Packers lose, the Lions, holy crap. There is a possibility, very, very small possibility. There's a possibility the Lions could go to dead last in the division. If the Bears, Vikings, and Packers win, the Lions are 4th in the division. That is not possible for the Packers. The worst we could be is 3rd in the division. If we lose and the Vikings, Bears, and Lions win, we're still 3rd ahead of the Vikings. But there is a possibility for the Lions to drop. In fact, we don't even need to win because we have the... So if we lose and the Lions lose, the Vikings and Bears could win and we'd be 2nd in the division and still in the playoffs. So that Washington game is pretty massive. I would say it's extremely unlikely, but that's what I said about the Vikings game, so we'll just see how it goes. My wife just came down and gave me astronaut food, freeze-dried, and something is stuck in my gums, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was the freeze-dried turkey chip or the pumpkin pie crisp thing, but it's all up in my gums. That's crazy. Something stabbed me good. I think I got stabbed by turkey. I don't know why she has that or where that came from, but that's... I don't ask questions, man. Things just happen in life, you know? You just move on. Got some official word here, by the way. Packers have listed wide receiver Golden, Wicks, and Williams, as well as Zach Tom, is questionable for Monday night's game against the Eagles. Oh, I'm going to cry. I'm going to freaking cry, man. Can we just get a chance? The good news is Cam Jurgens, the center for the Eagles, is out. So they are without their starting center. Not that that mattered much in the freaking Panthers game, but, you know, hopefully that will be different. Van Ness and Hobbs are officially out in the game. I'll be honest, man. I just want Zach Tom. I understand 3 wide receivers on top of Reed already being out and losing Kraft is vicious. But I would like Zach Tom, would be my request, please, and thank you very much. Anywho, I tell you what, let's take a break, because I want to spend a little bit of time on this. I want to look at the specific playoff odds, if this, then this kind of thing. Kind of similar to what we just did, but instead of just saying, you know, today with this, that, or the other, it's more just what does that mean long-term percentage-wise. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okie doke. So, as of right now, according to the 100,000 simulator thing that they have over at the NewYorkTimes.com, also The Athletic, couldn't really tell you how to get there, but if you search for NFL playoff picture is what they call it, you'll probably be able to find it. As of right now, they have the Packers at an 87% chance. We already went through that. So let's step it up a notch here. First of all, in this game, it's not quite as dire as I made it out in the last one because you look into the future at the upcoming games, etc., etc. But it's still a very big game. If the Packers win the game, their odds of making the playoffs go from 87% to 93%. Their odds of being the number 1 seed go from 11% to 19%. Their odds of outright missing, obviously, we're looking at 7-8%, somewhere in that range, if you win this game. In other words, it is a beyond a long shot that you're going to end up missing the playoffs if you win this game. Now, if you lose the game, still very good odds we make the playoffs, but it drops from 87% down to 80%. There's simulations sometimes change, 81%. The odds of being number one seed drop down to 4%, so you're basically out of the running for that, which is not great. You don't want to be borderline eliminated from the number one seed, shortly, a little bit past mid-season. But let's see if we can make things a little bit worse. They kind of do some work with you to show you some of the worst possible outcomes here. So let's go through the week and make it a terrible week. The Falcons win. That drops us from 80% down to about 78%. With the Vikings win, it drops to 77%. These things aren't moving the needle all that much. Same with the Bears winning. It's still at 77%. If the Lions winning, it drops to 75%. These aren't really moving the needle as much. I suppose it has more to do with the Packers winning than any of these other teams, because as long as the Packers do what they need to do moving forward, it won't matter. But anywho, let's say worst case scenario, the Packers are down to about a 75% chance of making the playoffs, which is not the greatest, right? Then you look to next week, and we won't go through every single week, but you're looking at, if you win, you're back up to an 80. If you lose to the Giants, you're down to 60% chance. The next game, and obviously the odds of us losing 3 in a row are relatively low, but if you lose to the Vikings, then now we're sub 50%. So if you lose to the Eagles, lose to the Giants, lose to the Vikings, I mean, obviously at that point nobody's feeling good about life, but that's I guess the positive side to look at is that's what it's going to take to get us below 50%. And then you do all that, you drop 3 in a row to not very good teams, you beat the Lions, and you're right back to 55%. So let's clear this out a little bit. Let's go the other way now. The Packers have beaten the Eagles, so we are at a 93% chance. And in this case, it does make a big difference if the opponents, if the guys in the NFC North lose, because that's going to make it really hard for us to not seal up a spot. But if we just go through one at a time, and I say that let's go with the more obvious one, and that would be the Vikings losing to the Ravens. We're still at about the same. But if we say, what about the Giants beating the Bears, that jumps us up to 94%. And then if the Commanders beat the Lions, we're at about 96%. So, it's not skyrocketing, but there's almost nowhere left to go. So, there's a lot more room down than there is up. And that's good news for us. There's a lot more leeway. One really solid week. One just super lucky week. We win, and, the Lions lose. I mean, we're looking at 95%. Now, maybe that's not comforting to anybody, because it's not a question of getting into the playoffs. It's a question of being a contender. But let's just take it one step at a time, all right? Because things have gotten so dark after that Panthers game, it has become a legitimate question for a lot of fans of if we're actually going to make the playoffs. So I guess let me just start by, I don't want to say assuring you, because I can't assure you of anything. I mean, we could certainly miss the playoffs. That's not out of the question. But let me provide a little mathematical context as to how easy it is to essentially lock it up compared to how difficult it's going to be, how much they're going to have to screw up to lose this opportunity. Does that make sense? Now, again, we have a tough matchup. I think the Lions, I don't want to say it's an easy matchup, but Commanders have not been putting up a huge fight. The Vikings probably have it the toughest, assuming the Ravens are just back now with Lamar. I don't know. Otherwise, I think the Lions and Bears probably have the easier matchup of the week, but that's the way it goes sometimes, and you got to be able to fight through that. Next week, we get the Giants, so that's going to be our opportunity to take on an easier opponent. I know everyone's real skeptical of that game, and I get it. You know what's funny about that? It's not funny, it's horrifying. The last time when we lost to the Panthers in embarrassing fashion, the guy was dog crap. It was like his only good game of the season was against the Packers. The other game that we got screwed, I think it was like the next week or the week before or whatever, it was the Giants and Tommy DeVito. That was like when things were at an all-time low with Joe Barry, where it was like, what is even happening right now? Because I don't perfectly remember, but I think we got off to a slow start like usual. We ramped it up, and it was like, oh, man, we're a really good team now. And then there was just that random weird patch where we lost to the Panthers and lost to the Giants, or it was close or something. I don't exactly remember. I think we lost to them. And then we come out and we get hot again until the playoffs when we fall off. But that is a little scary to think about. Hopefully the Giants' backup doesn't play in that game, or I'm really going to be nervous. But it will be Bears-Vikings in Week 11, so somebody has to lose. And then it's Lions-Eagles. So, and honestly, that's one of those, either way somebody has to lose, and that's good for us. So even if the Lions win, the Eagles losing, that works to our benefit. If the Lions lose, that works even more to our benefit. So it's kind of, somebody has to win, which sucks, but somebody has to lose. Either the Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions or Eagles have to lose a game. So if we can just stay in front, if we can find a way to beat the Eagles, not collapse against the Giants, we'll be in real good shape. Because again, one of these teams has to lose, and that's going to help us if we can go 2-0. After that, we got the Vikings, which, we'll see. I can't imagine it's a tough competition, but who knows? Maybe J.J. McCarthy or Nine, or whatever his freaking idiot name is actually going to be a great quarterback. I don't know. That guy's so up and down. Like I said, that first game, everybody trashed him. I thought he actually looked quite good. And I started kind of praising him a little bit. Like, I don't know, dude. He's kind of looking a little scary. I think that next game was when he played pretty well for like an entire game. And I was like, see, I freaking told you. And then he just played like dog crap. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't freaking know. Now he's back. And I didn't watch the game, but everyone's praising how great he was, even though his stats weren't that good. And PFF didn't like him that much. But again, we just got to stay out in front. In fact, let me do one more thing real quick. Leaving aside what everybody else does. If we lose to the Eagles, we're at 80%. If we beat the Giants, we're at 86%. Let's say, let's say we lose to the Vikings and Lions. The Vikings are kind of tough. The Lions get us back. We're still at 58%. Now, this is where it gets bad, because if you lose to the Bears, it goes down to 31%. If you beat them, you're at 65%. But the point is, you've got to win one of these rivalry games. Let's say that's what we do. We're at 65%. At that point, you got to kind of, it looks like split and make it 2-2. You know what I mean? So beat the Bears, lose to the Broncos, beat the Bears, lose to the Ravens, beat the Vikings kind of thing. Now, obviously, there's a lot of divisional matchups here, so which ones you win and which ones you lose make a very big difference. But down the stretch here, just for example, I have us winning 4 more games, which means we lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we go 4-5. It has us at a 75% chance if we go 4-5 of being in the playoffs. In fact, I switched it so that we still go 4-5. That's actually not possible because we have to beat somebody in the division. But let's say we only beat one of the teams in our division. Let's say it's the Vikings or whatever. It puts us at 45%. If it's the Bears, it's 45%. If it's the Lions, so it's about 45%. So going 4-5 puts us at probably around 50-50, depending on what our record is against the division, with the worst case being between 40 and 45%. Obviously, this isn't ideal, but it's just kind of putting things into perspective as to what the Packers are going to have to do in the remaining games to be able to make it okay. And again, obviously this depends on what happens. We get a reprieve if teams like the Lions and the Bucks and the Eagles and the Bears and whatnot, if they start losing games, that's going to mean, we can, again, not that we want to, we can lose more games and still have a good chance of getting in. We'll revisit this weekly. In fact, we might if I can remember, pop back on here after Monday night just to kind of see, okay, now that the dust is settled, where are we at? But again, those are kind of the ones that we're looking at. You're generally rooting against the NFC across the board. But obviously, some of the big ones, Patriots against the Buccaneers is a pretty big one. Ravens, Vikings, it's not as big, but the Vikings are not out of it. And, it just takes a week or two for them to suddenly be a serious contender. Losing to the Ravens is a big deal. Giants, Bears, I don't know. Maybe the Giants can get it done. They should be able to. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, but we'll probably just stay away from because we're running out of time. Maybe it's a tomorrow thing, I guess. But when you look at the luck factor, I kind of stumbled upon it. I've been talking about it a lot with the Packers and that Panthers game. I stumbled upon looking at some stuff for today's podcast as far as betting. And one of the things I noticed was I think the second highest team in luck right now is the Chicago Bears. So it's worth noting that. Not saying that means they're going to lose, but I'm just saying. So that obviously is a big one. And then you've got Rams 49ers is big, depending on if we win or lose. Again, it's a matter of, like, are we shooting for the top or are we trying to just make sure we don't fall out the bottom? Cardinals, Seahawks, Commanders, Lions, those are big games. Okay, let's take our final break. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of going through the games and giving thoughts, not entirely my thoughts, but, based on the research that I've done, thoughts on maybe some bets for the upcoming week, for today, I guess. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. So it's a little shady of me to say because it has to do with how confident I was in some of my bets. But to be fair, I've done this 2 weeks in a row now. I mean, consistently since I've started paying attention and whatnot. And I'm up both weeks. The first week was just straight up. I was 4-2. I think last week I was even, whatever it was, 3-3, however many bets I made. But the ones I won, I was more confident in, so I bet more. And one of the ones I lost, I bet half of my general wager, which is the way I tend to do it. Here's how much money per wager. There's, double the wager, half the wager, whatever. We're talking small denominations here, folks, so it's not that big of a deal. And I'm somewhat doing this live, so I will be making determinations as we go. Also, we've got the man behind the curtain, who I did not reference last week because I think... I guess I was just expecting him to send me information, and he didn't. So I was like, all right, maybe he doesn't want to do it this week. When I think he put in the work and just put it on the little sheet over here, and I just didn't check it. So my bad, man behind the curtain. I apologize for that. All right, let's do a little game for game. We do have an international game. I'll be honest, I'm starting to like the international games only because I like that there's a game early in the morning. They're bad games. I don't want to be a part of them. They remind me of kind of like Thursday games or whatever. You can never count on them. When your team is there, all bets are off, so you just don't know if you're going to lose to some garbage team because they're tired. I think we have a terrible record overseas, too. It just feels that way, I guess. I don't know, but whatever. Falcons, Colts. One of the things I always hate about this is there's just so many opinions, and it can go either way. And so it's kind of... I don't know if maybe the best way I should handle this is to break it down in terms of the rationale and let you decide, or if I should come to some determination and go from there. But either way, we'll cover the details. So first off, I will mention Mr. Man Behind the Curtain has this game in his leans. So he's got best bet, leans, and teaser of the week. And he is leaning Falcons plus 6.5. Right now, I have it at Falcons plus 6. Again, I never know what cushion people want to put in here, but that's where I'm at. I don't know if that's still the bet, especially when it's lean. But Berlin, Germany game, from what I can tell, here's another thing that I've been doing. So obviously, you guys know how I am with AI. I've been grabbing just about every expert I can find in this type of stuff and putting it all together to kind of create, first of all, just kind of an overview of what's happening and what the thoughts behind a lot of stuff are, just even not related to just general information. But also, now that we're 2 weeks into this, I can go back and start grading these people as far as how good they're doing. And so now I have 2 weeks of that where I can start building a weighted system based on who said what and how accurate they are. So I'll tell you this. There is no real consensus. There's arguments on both sides for everything, and we could certainly go over that. And if you want me to provide you with this information, again, I don't know how interested some people are. I could certainly make whatever case you would like. There is no consensus on the total, the over-under. The against the spread thing is kind of a toss-up. Again, man behind the curtain leans Falcons. But there is a bit of a favorite pick in picking the Colts straight up. That is to say the money line. That is to say that they're just going to win. I have it at minus 321 right now for the Colts. So let me read those two things to you in terms of the arguments for, because technically they can both be true. Falcons against the spread, Colts money line. One of the main things is, as I said, it's an international game, so stuff is weird. And so when you start saying, well, the Colts are going to dominate, even though minus 6 isn't necessarily dominating, the rationale is basically you have to view it more as a toss-up than you would if this was played on American soil. They're also highlighting that Atlanta's defense is actually quite good to be able to counter the Colts. Falcons have a good pass rush, 10th in pressure rate, 5th in sack rate, making it a difficult matchup for the Colts. Colts dealing with some injuries, including DeForest Buckner. The other thing that a lot of people are referencing is the fact that all the money is on the Colts, so a lot of people are fading the public. But that seems to be the biggest thing. Colts have injuries. The public is way too heavy and pushing for the Colts. And the Falcons' defense, obviously the major strength of the Colts right now is their high-powered offense, but the Falcons are maybe more equipped to handle that than a lot of people would maybe expect, to keep it at least close, to not necessarily straight up pick the Falcons to win, although some people did do that. Jay All Day, for example, picked the Falcons money line upset pick. But either way, you're cashing pretty well if you pick the Falcons against the spread. The rationale for Colts money line. Strong historical trend for international favorites, 27-13 against the spread, covering 68% of the time. It's a get-right game for Jonathan Taylor against Atlanta's bottom 10 rushing DVOA defense. Again, they mentioned a couple things that they do well, like pass rush, but apparently the run defense via DVOA is bottom 10. There is also what we mentioned before. Penix is good at home. He's bad on the road. This is very, very much on the road. And the thought being the Colts might have the ability to take away Bijan, meaning they're going to force Penix to throw in this game. You've also got, again, overseas, but from a different perspective, and that is the Colts are a little bit more of a veteran team, whereas the Falcons are a younger, more inexperienced, more lacking in discipline type of team that are probably going to be more impacted negatively than the Colts will be. Meaning instead of maybe closing the gap, it might actually lead to a blowout. And I've heard a lot of people say this is going to be an absolute blowout for the Colts. Obviously not enough that the pick here is the spread, but whatever. So for me personally, especially since we're split between the man behind the curtain and the general thought, I'm going to stay away from this one. International game. It's kind of weird. I don't love it, but certainly will want to keep an eye on that one. Then we got the Cleveland Browns, New York Jets, really of no interest to us as Packer fans. Cleveland Browns, New York Jets, basically two terrible offensive teams, both of them coming off bye weeks. The total is set at 38, which is a pretty solid reflection of how bad of a game this is expected to be, similar to Saints-Panthers, actually. The Browns are the only team this season that have yet to receive public support on their spread. Their opponent has been on the public side all 8 times. It's kind of interesting. Remember, the Jets just got done trading away 2 of their best players, maybe their 2 best players, probably actually, Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. When both teams are coming off a bye week, the under is 23-13-1 since 2015. And there is expectation of rain and bad weather, which obviously pushes the points down generally. This one for the man behind the curtain is in the teaser of the week. The Jets right now are +2 against the spread. He is saying to tease the Jets up to 8.5. As for the, I don't know, we'll call it the pros. There is sort of a lean here to pick the underdog Jets at +2. And then I guess you would call it a best bet or a strong confidence bet in the Browns money line. So just quickly going through some of that stuff. People supporting the Jets to cover the spread are primarily looking at fading the Browns' weaknesses, particularly their offense, quarterback, and their coaching trends. Browns' offense is appallingly bad, scoring only 15.8 points per game, ranking last in first downs. Dillon Gabriel has a 26.6 quarterback ranking, which is 31st in the NFL. Some people are saying that Dillon Gabriel can't be trusted on anything beyond 5 yards, which is not fantastic. Again, you've got the rain and bad weather thing with Dillon Gabriel, who is from Hawaii. He's already made comments that he does not like bad weather. There's other historical trends for Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski showing his performance after a bye week is not good. They are currently 0-2 straight up and against the spread on the road, and they're actually failing to cover the spread by over 20 points per game. Overall, Stefanski is 5-11 against the spread on extended preparation, the worst mark among 71 head coaches since 2020. So that is the case to at least take the Jets against the spread. Picking Cleveland, on the other hand, has more to do with a completely demoralized Jets team. Their roster is garbage. Everything is the season is already over, and they've shipped away their best players. They know that it is collapse time. It's tear down, rebuild time. The vibes in the Jets locker room are at an all-time low. Analysts are expecting absolute minimal effort. Players are going to be making business decisions, knowing that obviously they're more concerned about, if I'm not going to be here, I need to be healthy to make sure I get that next contract because I'm not doing anything here. Not to mention the fact that you've already got a pretty bad defense and it just got worse. You just traded away the one guy in your defensive line that can do anything, and you got rid of one of the best corners in football. All the while you're going up against Cleveland's defense, which is a very good defense, not as much on the road, but it is a very good defense. And so the thought is that Cleveland is going to lean very heavily on Quinshon Judkins, their running back, to control the game. They're going to use their defense to control Justin Fields and the Jets' offense. Hence, the Cleveland Browns win. Now, again, amongst the experts, when you take into account not only what they believe, but also how good of a job they've done in the past 2 weeks, the more confident bet was to bet the Cleveland Browns money line. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. It's so hard after just reading what I read. I think I was more sold in the other direction, and I can't get myself to bet on Dillon Gabriel winning, much less clearing the 2 points. So I can't do it. I'm going to end up betting nothing this week, I can tell. Panthers-Saints was going to be a lot better because at least this time there weren't conflicting things, at least among the experts. That is until you look at the man behind the curtain who has to complicate everything. So Saints-Panthers, our friend behind the curtain leans Saints +6. The experts lean very heavily on the Panthers, not only as against the spread, but also straight up. I guess I said that backwards, but whatever. Bottom line is both of them are popular picks. Man behind the curtain doesn't provide a lot of detail, so I will throw that out there. I will add him to the list of the experts, but let me go through what I've been able to gather out there in the ether as far as the Panthers. First of all, it's the Saints. The Saints are bad. I should also note that the number is down to 5.5, but I think one of the things is the Carolina Panthers are seen as a quote-unquote hot team. I'm sure part of that had to do with the Packers game. Saints obviously not a hot team, but hot team coming off a big win. They're at home against a division rival. The run game with Rico Dowdle is a major asset, allows them to lean on the play action with Bryce Young. The Saints also are 0-4 on the road this year. They are on the road. Carolina's home record is 3-1. The Saints have the worst point differential in the NFC. They're -105 for the season. The Saints tackle, Fuaga, is out, which is a big deal for their run game and their pass protection. So we'll see. My biggest hang-up here is that I wonder, and maybe this is where the man behind the curtain is coming from, I wonder if there's too much confidence on Carolina for a lot of the reasons mentioned, but especially coming out of that Packer game, which, as I said, I do believe was a very luck-based game. I think Carolina is a was a pretty bad team, and they needed the Packers to self-destruct essentially 3 turnovers and a missed field goal, and they barely won the game. They really couldn't stop the Packers at any point. They didn't put up a ton of points, even with 3 turnovers in the game. And so I think maybe they're a little inflated. However, I also think that they're better than the Saints, and 5.5 is not, it's not like it's 13 points or something crazy. A little bit more of the superstitious angle. This is actually, believe it or not, despite the fact that they're 5-4, they have been underdogs in every single game this year, which speaks to the Carolina Panthers. This is the first time they've been favorites the entire year, and they are 0-10 straight up against the spread in their last 10 games when they're favored. So, I mean, maybe picking I think I might pick the Panthers to win and just leave it at that. I got to lay a bet somewhere. I don't feel super wonderful about it, but I think I'm going to do it. And if I lose, then the man behind the curtain will rightly tell me I'm an idiot. Bills-Dolphins. We don't have a man behind the curtain bet on this, but as far as the experts are concerned, picking the Bills money line or the over are both in the, you could call it best bet category. High confidence. First of all, Buffalo Bills historically dominate Miami. They've won 7 straight and 14 of their last 15 matchups with an average margin of victory of 15 points per game. Tua is 1-9 straight up against the Bills, which is obviously also, the Bills are just better. Like that. I don't know if that needed to be said, but there you go. And then we've mentioned this before, but Miami is known for having a historically bad run defense, and I think probably, arguably the best running back in football. Certainly the most underrated running back in football is James Cook. He doesn't have the cumulative stats that the Colts running back has, but I think he might be right now the best running back in football. Josh Allen is flirting with the MVP award again. Dolphins also have a bunch of injuries. 5 defensive starters are questionable for the game. They also did just trade away Jalen Phillips to the Eagles. So I do feel relatively good about that. The over also is a pretty big bet. The total is set at 50, which based on what we've heard so far, Bills still have a good offense. Dolphins, terrible defense. Bills generally win by 15, which, I suppose they could do that and it'd still be under 50 if you keep them to 15, 16 points or something, but you'd expect some level of high-scoring game. But I think the expectation is Miami probably gets 20, 21 points in the game, and so it may be close, but I think the expectation is 53 to 55 points. Let's talk about Buffalo building up a huge lead, 21 points in the first half, and that Miami probably be packing up shop in the fourth quarter, just basically giving up on the game. There's also a question, and this is kind of what I would wonder, if you would rather just take the Buffalo Bills team over as opposed to the Dolphins, because they're going to be weighing this down quite a bit. I think the other thing that worries me is if Buffalo decides we're going to win this game by running the ball. I know that's not really Buffalo's DNA to just kind of like run out the clock. They're more of a foot on the throat, run up the score team, but I don't know. I would prefer, the money line isn't going to pay out hardly anything, but I suppose if you parlay those two together. Anywho, Jaguars-Texans, man behind the curtain has that as one of his best bets for under 38 points. It's currently down to 37.5. That's actually perfect because in this game, the experts have 0 consensus across the board. So that one's nice and easy. Chicago Bears and New York Giants. This is another man behind the curtain best bet. He has Giants plus 4.5. That is the current line that I'm looking at. Unfortunately, once again, we don't have agreement. The experts right now have the Bears and the over. The biggest thing for the Bears is the Bears' rushing offense, which is seen as kind of the strength that they have, exploiting the Giants' run defense, which is really not good. The Giants apparently rank 32nd out of 32 in rush DVOA. The Giants' defense in general is ranked 25th against the run and gives up roughly 150 rush yards per game. The Bears are a run-heavy team, ranked as the 10th most run-happy team in the league. The rushing attack has been excellent, ranking second in EPA per rush behind only Indianapolis. Bears' backfield is expected to be DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. Monangai looked really good in Week 9. He ran for 58 rush yards over expected. Giants are currently a mess, dealing with long injury report that includes season-ending injuries to key players like Cam Scatabo and Malik Neighbors. Questionable status for multiple defensive and offensive line starters. The injury toll makes it very hard to get a read on the Giants, further diminishing their ability to compete. And then as far as the over, the bottom line here is the Giants don't have a good defense, but they do have an ability to score. And so the thought being that Chicago is going to be able to get points against this terrible defense, and the Giants are going to be able to put up points because it's kind of just what they do. Both Giants and Bears defenses leave a lot to be desired. Bears defense has been porous recently, giving up 470 yards to Joe Flacco and 28.4 points per game. The Giants defense is nearly as generous, allowing 27.7 points per game and 33-plus points in 3 straight games. Despite injuries, the Giants offense, led by Jackson Dart, has consistently found ways to score. They've been profitable on the team total, giving 5-1 to their team total over under Dart. So I tell you what, I think the only one that I kind of like might be the over. I'm not 100% sold on the Bears, and also the fact that that was a Giants best bet for the man behind the curtain. I'm not going to do that, but I will play with the over, I think. Not a massive amount of confidence, but I gotta put something somewhere. No, it's not. Knock it off. Baltimore Ravens, Minnesota Vikings. Some good news, although obvious news. The favorite kind of across the board in terms of the money line as well as the spread is the Ravens. And I'll be honest, I think this is going to be a pretty easy sell. I mean, Lamar's back and they're looking good, and this is just 4 points. It seems pretty wild to me. Most compelling argument is the disparity of the team with and without Lamar Jackson. With Lamar on the field, the Ravens' offense is absolutely incredible. Ranked top 10 in numerous key metrics. EPA per play is 6th. Early down success is 6th. Touchdown drive percentage is 2nd. They score touchdowns on 36% of their drives. 3rd in explosive pass play percentage. I'm fading here, boys. Ravens are coming off extended preparation time following their Thursday Night Football win. With Lamar Jackson at quarterback on the road, after extended rest, the Ravens hold an 8-2 straight up and against the spread record, covering by an average of 8.7 points per game. Lamar Jackson is viewed as an MVP caliber player who's healthy, having just shown his form last week with 4 touchdown performance. The Vikings' defensive scheme plays directly into Lamar Jackson's strengths, creating specific advantages for Baltimore's offense. The Vikings' defense, led by Brian Flores, is characterized as overly aggressive and blitzes at a high rate. However, Lamar has been very good against the blitz this year, ranking 3rd in yards per dropback against the blitz. If Minnesota chooses to blitz Jackson, he's going to make them pay for it, taking off for 15 to 25-yard runs. The Vikings have been getting destroyed against the run over the last month. The Ravens have the ability to run on this Vikings defense, which should help Baltimore control the game. Injuries for the Vikings could end up being a factor. The loss of key defensive players, as well as players like Christian Darrisaw, who missed practice for the Vikings, could compromise the protection of their young quarterback, potentially leading to short drives that favor Baltimore's time of possession. So yeah, you can call me biased, but I'm going to be a buyer on the Ravens. I mean, if the Ravens hadn't been so dog crap over the last several weeks, and if the Vikings had looked like maybe the last time J.J. McCarthy was a quarterback prior to this last game, I think the spread is like -10 or more. Fingers crossed, because we need some help there. Patriots and Buccaneers. We got nothing from the man behind the curtain, but the experts like the Buccaneers. A couple of points on that. Single strongest argument for the Buccaneers is their positioning coming off a bye week against a New England team that is arguably due for regression. Tampa Bay is coming off a bye week. This is big because the Buccaneers were starting to fall apart a little bit due to injury. They needed it. So this gave them some opportunity to kind of come back healthy. Some other stuff. Under quarterback Baker Mayfield, the Bucs have been statistically dominant in the second half, going 29-16 against the second half spread. Second best mark in the entire NFL behind the Bills. Bounce back trend when the Buccaneers lose the second half against the spread in their previous game, which they did against the Lions. Tampa Bay under Mayfield is 14-2 against the spread in their subsequent game. New England has been hot, covering in 5 straight road games, but there is talk of them being due for a road loss, as they are 4-0 on the road. Bucs also have a little bit of an underrated run defense. They are ranked 5th in DVOA against the run. You got the Baker Mayfield clutch factor, wins games in close game situations. Tampa Bay holds a strong record of 6-0 against the spread in their last 6 games against top 10 defenses, which the Patriots qualify as. Patriots defense is considered overrated, especially in the secondary. So there you go. It's only 2.5, so I guess I'll do it. Why not? Trust the process. It's not worth really doing a podcast on it if I'm not really willing to put anything on the line over it. So I'll do it. Then we got Arizona and Seattle. This, for the man behind the curtain, is lean. And in this game, it's the under 45.5. As for the bets, there is sort of a lean for the Cardinals +7, but a very strong consensus on the Seahawks winning the game money line. A couple thoughts on that. Seahawks are seen as playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. FTN currently actually has the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl, which, I got to be honest, if the Packers don't win the Super Bowl, Seattle winning it with Sam Darnold at quarterback would be chef's frickin' kiss, man. Seattle also dominates the rivalry. They've won 8 straight against the Cardinals. Cardinals, like a lot of other teams, some serious injury issues. Seattle is also ranked 4th in both rushing and passing defense and lead the league in passing DVOA. Defense is only giving up 18.8 points per game. Seahawks offense with Sam Darnold, who was also shockingly in the MVP conversation, which makes me smile, has 16 touchdowns and 5 picks so far on the season. Cardinals also on a short rest spot coming off a Monday Night Football road win in Dallas. So it's a short week and you have to travel, even though it's not across the country. It's still an unfortunate spot. So, I hate doing all these money line bets because the payout is complete garbage. And if you miss on one, you're just kind of screwed. But I'm going to go ahead and do that. I do think that that's pretty fair. And 7 points is a lot, especially as weird of a season as this has been. Then we got Detroit and Washington. The other teaser of the week for the man behind the curtain has the Lions at -2.5. Currently, the Lions are 8-point favorites. No surprise, heavy favorite on the Lions, including against the spread, even at 8 and up to 8.5. The biggest arguments in favor of the Lions, even at -8 against the spread. Number one, Lions are historic bounce-back kings. So it's seen as a supreme revenge spot. Head coach Dan Campbell and quarterback Jared Goff are 12 games straight with a win and cover against the spread after an outright loss, the longest such streak for any team in the last 30 years. Overall, they're 21-8 against the spread off a straight-up loss. The Lions are highly motivated in the game, which is viewed as playoff revenge. Makes sense, too. Since 2023, Detroit is 19-6 against the spread in games where they lost outright to that opponent in their previous matchup, and they're 4-0 straight up and against the spread in 2025 in that exact spot. Last week, the Lions had only 65 total rush yards, and Goff was sacked 5 times. Under Dan Campbell, when the Lions rush for fewer than 100 yards in a game, they are an impressive 14-3 against the spread in their next game. This matchup also triggers a good team off a loss, opponent on an L streak betting system, which has a historic 62% win rate. The Lions are facing a Washington team that is significantly weaker due to injuries and morale issues, making it highly difficult for teams to stay within the spread. Jaden Daniels, obviously, being out is a major factor. Marcus Mariota will start, who is a huge downgrade. Commanders' ground game is going to take a further tumble without Daniels' mobility. Marcus Mariota's history as an underdog facing a team coming off a straight-up loss. Mariota is a worrying 4-11-1. It's amazing how there's always a 1 in there, even in small numbers like that. 4-11-1 first half against the spread record, suggesting the Lions should be able to jump out to an early lead. There's also a matchup advantage. Detroit's offense, which has weapons at every position, is positioned to exploit Washington's defensive weaknesses and control the scoreboard. Analysts are expecting David Montgomery to have a massive game as the Commanders' defense has allowed the fourth most schedule-adjusted fantasy points to opposing runners over the last 5 weeks. Jared Goff has a fantastic indoor record, a career of 24-7 against the spread when playing indoors off a straight-up loss. So it's pretty unanimous across the board, taking the Lions against the spread -8, which is sad, but I think I'm going to do it. Then we got Rams 49ers, our final afternoon game. This is another one where the favorite is pretty heavily favored. Even at -6 against the spread is kind of where the experts are leaning. Core argument here, similar to the Seahawks, is that the Rams are just a very good team right now. They're top 8 in both offense and defense. Second in defensive points allowed. 5th in DVOA against the run. Described by some people as having the best passing attack in the entire NFL. Scored 69 points over the last 2 weeks. Another good quarterback with Matthew Stafford playing at an elite level. Rams are right now the best second-half team in football. Stafford has a second-half passer rating of 128.4. The 49ers defense is facing a disaster of a front seven. They have currently the lowest pressure rate in the NFL at just 10%. Stafford is expected to absolutely rip them apart with no pressure in the pocket. So I think long story short, the 49ers are not up for this. They can't pressure. They've got the injury disadvantage. The Rams are just the better team. It is in San Francisco, but again, it's not exactly a across-the-country kind of a deal. So again, pretty strong favorite for Rams -6. And then our final Sunday game, obviously we'll talk about Monday tomorrow. Chargers-Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Similarly, although this isn't a very strong favorite, but the favorite in this game is the Chargers at -3, and the experts are leaning Chargers -3 against the spread in this game as well. Some thoughts behind why picking the Chargers against the spread is a good idea. Again, Justin Herbert, good quarterback. However, it's not just that. Herbert is apparently undefeated against the spread in night games this season, having covered 5 straight starts in prime time. As a favorite on the money line in night games, Herbert is 10-3 straight up. Herbert is also recognized as the league's best passer against the blitz and ranks second against overall pressure according to PFF metrics. This directly counters the Steelers' strength, which relies on generating pressure. Chargers prefer to throw the ball, the 7th most in the league, and have demonstrated that they can succeed passing even when under pressure. Pittsburgh Steelers have the worst pass defense in the NFL, allowing 278.2 passing yards per game. Conversely, the Chargers' passing offense ranks 6th in the NFL, 250.6 passing yards per game, setting up a significant advantage for the Chargers' air attack. Obviously, you can tie that in with the pass rush situation. Steelers' rushing offense ranks in the bottom 5 or 30th in the NFL, averaging only 87 rush yards per game. It's crucial because the Chargers' defense is considered subpar against the run. The Steelers' lack of ground game means the Chargers' defense won't be challenged where they're most vulnerable. Aside from the run, the Chargers' defense is highly ranked in key metrics, including 3rd in first downs allowed, 3rd in passing yards allowed, and 4th down in red zone efficiency. They have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL this year, giving up just 5.8 yards per pass. Analysts advise overrating the Pittsburgh Steelers after their recent 27-20 win over the Colts. The victory was deemed a phony win because the Steelers were outgained 368 to 225 yards and won the turnover battle by an unsustainable margin of 6-1. While the loss of Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater is a severe blow to the Chargers' offensive line, the line has adjusted significantly, dropping the Chargers from -4.5 to 2.5. We got it at 3 here. But that line movement is providing a lot of value for all the reasons that were already laid out. There's also the argument of urgency. The Chargers at 6-3 have far more urgency in their division and playoff race, which supports a strong performance. So there you go. All right. I am going to leave it at that. Again, tomorrow we'll dig into some of this stuff in regards to the Packers-Eagles, find any interesting little nuggets. But until then, I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.